Let's explore the Goreburster, a nightmarish xenomorph variant that's wreaked havoc across the cosmos. Found as an ovomorph in the far-flung corners of the universe, the Goreburster unleashed a horror unlike any other. Appearing in the 3-issue miniseries titled Aliens Kidnapped, the creature was stolen by smugglers and brought into the midst of human civilization on Earth, and then it found its way to a terraformed asteroid called Celeste, where it unleashed a horror like no other, and in terms of the number of casualties it caused, it is literally the deadliest xenomorph version ever. So, without further ado, let's get this party started. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The strangest of ovomorphs. 3 smugglers visit a distant planet looking for the stuff that fills nightmares of people like Ellen Ripley. They spot a crashed space vessel, but the absolute loners that they were hoping to find women survivors in the vessel. However, the scans did not show any human life on board, but the ship was not devoid of life. It housed an alien queen mother, but since the systems were sealed, she was in the brig. The smugglers set their vessel close to the trashed one, prepared to make a quick in and out. The scene inside was pretty messed up, even for an alien comic. People had been charred to death, wearing masks for protection. They make it to the hold, where Eric points out that although the queen was not inside, there was no telling what dangers awaited them. They open the door, and to everyone's surprise, a queen mother attacks them. While Eric gets busy becoming her lunch, the other 2 light her up. After taking care of the queen with some really heavy gunfire, they set their eyes on the prize, the ovomorphs, or as we know them, xenomorph eggs. They got some 13 of the eggs, but one of them was very peculiar and intriguing. How? Well, it had this pink coating on it, which was natural, but fairly unusual. It almost felt like this pink egg was sick and mutated. Nevertheless, they pick it up as well. They waste no time in freezing the eggs, so that the facehuggers within do not come out. But where were the eggs headed? Who was the party buying them? The men bring them to a Guyanet scientist named Rumford, who purchases the 12 normal eggs and pays them heavily for the same. But this guy did not want the 13th egg. In fact, he wanted the damned egg to be thrown out of the solar system itself. Or better yet, he wanted the egg to be destroyed in the smuggler ship's hot fuel tank. You see, Rumford revealed that some microorganism had infected this particular egg, and if it could invade a xenomorph, there was no telling what it would do to humans. Rumford pays them extra to destroy the infected ovomorph, but the men decide against it. There is no way that they are going to let their precious find go to waste. They could still find a buyer for it, and that's what they do. They immediately started for a shantytown named Barabazon to look for a man named Uncle Saul, who dealt in all kind of weird monstrosities, which he cooked and sold at his bar as exotic meals. They hoped that Uncle Saul would buy the same, and maybe cook it for his patrons. Saul was not really interested in buying the egg, knowing the horrors it could bring, but the smugglers convinced him that it would bring him a lot of money, for no one else sold cooked ovomorphs. Yeah, that's kinda true. Also, Saul thought about his most regular patron, Daryl Zither, a sleazy and egoistic host of a morally ambiguous show named Goad. You want to know just how morally messed up it was? Well, in one of the episodes, Daryl left the fate of an accused murderer to the people watching the show. Their decision would decide if this man lived or died. So much for natural justice. The next panel takes us to the sets of Goad, where Daryl was welcoming his guest that evening, Ivy Derringer, an extremely hot woman who happened to be the richest woman on Earth and the owner of a company named Skank. Like in the real world, Ivy was using Daryl's TV show to promote one of her latest products, but unlike the real world, this product was a whole new heaven in the sky called Planet Celeste. She had purchased an asteroid named NYN 678 from the Colonial Marines and terraformed it into a luxury resort for the uber-rich. But she goes a step further and invites Daryl to be her personal guest to Celeste. Of course, the sleazy bugger could not resist an invitation from such a hot woman. And to be honest, even Ivy wanted a little action under the sheets with Daryl. He later gets a call from Uncle Saul about this new stuff that Saul had procured. And like an aficionado for the weird and absurd, Daryl arrives at the bar. Uncle Saul placed the infected ovomorph egg before him, and this stupid man licks the egg out of curiosity. You see, the egg had begun to defrost, and a facehugger from the egg latched onto Daryl's head while he was still sticking his tongue on the ovomorph. Uncle Saul knew that Daryl had met a fate worse than death, and asked his bodyguards to take him away. So, Daryl's bodyguards take him and dump him in his bed. The following morning, Ivy arrives with her bodyguard, Chiggerman, at Daryl's place to take him along with her to Celeste. By now, the facehugger had done its job. That's where the first issue ends, with Daryl, Chiggerman, and Ivy leaving for Celeste. Goreburster. On the way to Celeste, Ivy started bragging about her resort, how the food was beyond the world, how the artificial women there made the most beautiful human women look like horses, and how the scientists on Celeste provide chemical therapy that feels better than Nirvana. Upon reaching their ship, Ivy tells her personnel that she is going to her personal quarters with Daryl and is not to be disturbed. They go in, and Ivy tries to entice Daryl, but he is in no mood for it. He had been feeling weird the whole ride, and the chest burster inside Daryl had matured enough to leave his body. Ivy tried to fight the creature off, but to no avail. Despite putting up a good fight, the chest burster went straight for her neck, killing her. You see, usually, the chest bursters are not violent, preferring to go into hiding so that they can mature into a xenomorph without being attacked, but this one was different. Due to its infection, it had become extremely violent. Due to this, he was now called the Goreburster. Since Ivy had earlier asked her men to leave her undisturbed, that's what they did, and they waited until the last moment to ask her to deboard the plane. The captain of the ship went to fetch her, but he was welcomed with this unpleasant smell, which was so bad that he threw up. He opened the door to find the Goreburster waiting for him. The creature went straight for the captain's skull, killing him. Interestingly, the creature secreted an incredibly toxic and contagious pink residue wherever it went. Chiggerman tried contacting Captain Brewster, but did not get an answer. How could he? Brewster was dead. Chiggerman decided to take the stock on the situation. On the way to the ship, he found the pink trail left by the Goreburster and found Brewster's dead body. By now, the Goreburster had reached the resort and was attacking people left, right, and center. Meanwhile, the situation was getting worse everywhere, including Barabazon. It turned out that the pink stuff coating the Ovomorph and the pink trail left by the Goreburster left people suffering from bouts of madness and delirium before they would blow to unimaginably horrific proportions and explode in the most violent of fashion. When this pink residue dried, it turned into powder form and mixed with the atmosphere, becoming an airborne infection that left the surrounding area extremely contagious. The government and the colonial marines were taking stock of the situation on Earth, and on the other hand, the Celeste was also designated a quarantine zone. All flights to and from Celeste were halted. However, Chiggerman had managed to get on Ivy's ship and embarked on a journey to Earth, falsely believing that Ivy was just busy with Daryl and still did not want to be disturbed. This was the last flight that left Celeste, and it was heading to Earth, so of course, you can expect more drama. An uncontrollable infection. Aboard the ship with Commander Stickler, Chiggerman was losing his shit. He started his tomfoolery with hysterical laughter. When Stickler tried arresting him, Chiggerman shot the controls of the ship. We all know how that would pan out. On the other hand, Earth received an erratic transmission from Ivy's ship, and it wasn't before long that they realized that the Earthbound ship was heading back to Celeste. Everyone was confused about what this skylarking was all about. By now, everyone knew that the whole mess started at Uncle Saul's bar and skyrocketed to Celeste. Quite literally, but Earth was also facing its brunt. Now, Ivy's ship changing its destinations was not helping anyone, especially when an extremely dangerous creature was at large in Ivy's rich man's paradise. Director Drummond was worried about the safety of the people on Celeste, and he wasn't someone all bronze like Chiggerman. He was not taking the situation lightly. He had dispatched several teams looking for the alien and had increased security everywhere. Furthermore, he was readying the evacuation systems, but was asked by Earth officials to halt that immediately. Wherever the security teams went, they found remains of dead people, and all this was done by just one critter. Interestingly, the Goreburster had not turned into a xenomorph drone yet. It was still in its chest burster form. The search party followed the pink trail left by the alien and finally managed to find it, but it was already dead. Drummond sent the specimen to the biohazard lab, but all that was going for a toss. The government tells Drummond that the virus on Celeste was beyond human control. Drummond understood what it meant. Within minutes, they nuked Celeste, killing everyone on the resort. Goreburster explored. The Goreburster was a twisted take on the classic Xenomorph chestburster and clearly amped up the horror in its franchise to unimaginable levels. This creature sports a pale gray hue, a stark contrast to the usual infant alien look. What really sets it apart, though, is its hyper-aggressive nature. Right from the get-go, it's on the hunt, attacking prey instead of hiding like its counterparts. This xenomorph's life cycle is a flash in the pan. It doesn't evolve and only survives for a few hours, but it's what it does in those hours that's truly terrifying. The Goreburster secretes a pink substance that's not just toxic, but also highly contagious. Contact with this residue sends victims into a frenzy of delirium, leading to a gruesome end where they bloat and explode violently. Once the residue dries, it turns to powder, dissipates into the air, and turns the area into a contagion zone. The havoc wreaked by the Goreburster is unparalleled. It was responsible for such severe outbreaks that entire areas, like Barabazon and the Celeste Resort, had to be nuked to stop the spread, leading to a staggering loss of life. When it comes to the deadliest xenomorphs, the Goreburster might just top the list, given the mass casualties it indirectly caused. Stick around with us to learn more about these long-forgotten but amazing Xenomorph variants. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one, and be safe.